GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com. All right, welcome everybody to our coaching show. I guess I'm solo again today, so we're going to be chatting about tech, mainly because the other co-host got a bunch of tech, so I don't have a bunch of new tech. We'll talk about the tech I have, talk about the tech you have, we'll talk about tech that the robots tell us to talk about, and we'll have a conversation here. So we go live every Tuesday to offer coaching for content creators, specifically on firearms content, firearms focus, Second Amendment focus for sure. And guys who are just joining us live, Foss is out there saying hey. Ricardo, welcome. So if anybody else joins us, let us know. We do the show live on Tuesday mornings, so that so there's no perfect time to have a consulting show like this. So we started doing it. I'm not even sure why we started doing it on Tuesday mornings. I think it just worked into Clover's schedule, and we kept going with it. So since it's just me, we'll read through some of the text I got here. I can put it behind the puppy over here, and we'll read through it. This is what the robots told us to talk about today, and this is what we default to when we don't have Clover to have a conversation with here. All right, so otherwise, we got the other co-host here. Give him a biscuit for everybody out in the audience. That's his welcome biscuit for everybody. Unapologetically armed out there. Welcome. Are you at the event still, or is it? Wait, when is the event over? 11th. I guess it's over now. Or was it through the 18th? I'd have to look at a calendar. Let's look at a calendar. So one of our projects is guncalendars.com. Ask Gun Calendars. So over here on the Gun Calendar, we can see that today, oh no, it looks like the conference ended yesterday. It ended on the 14th. Today, though, is the anniversary of the patenting of the first submachine gun, the 45 ACP Thompson submachine gun. Woods is out there. Good afternoon. Wrapped up yesterday. Just Sunday. I've been, the reason we're late today is I've been changing out the water pump in the van, trying to diagnose a squeaky noise. Got a squeaky noise in the van, and it turns out it wasn't the water pump. So that was 2 days worth of effort and a couple of bucks. I have a new water pump now, but I still have a squeaky noise. So I got to figure out what the squeaky noise is coming from. I'm sure it was going to be that water pump. Anyhow, we'll jump back over from the calendars to this. Let's see. So we're talking technology. It says crafting excellence, advanced tools and techniques for content creators. So I put a poll up there what people are going to be. What are you looking at, buddy? What's happening? Oh, there's a fly buzzing around. I think he's looking at the fly. So we got a lot of tech. Then we got a poll going so people can chat about or give us some feedback on which type of tech you're most interested in. I got favorite, not necessarily most important. All right, buddy, that's it. You're going down. I'm putting him down. I got to put him down. He's getting put down. And he just sat there. He didn't even do nothing. All right, I'll turn off this. And we'll just have nothing on the screen, I guess. And then I can pull this over to where I can see it a lot easier than over by him. All right, so as far as the poll, we have camera, audio, editing, and 3D animation, or 3D/animation. And right now, editing tech and camera tech seems to be winning with a couple of votes each. So we'll leave that running throughout the show. Looks like Huck is out there. Good afternoon. Long time no see. I don't know how many people remember Huck or know Huck from back in the day on gun channels. If that's the same Huck, I'm sure it is. So yeah, let's dig into it. I'll just read what the robots came up with here. I usually take the topic and plug it into AI to give us some content for the description here, and it gives us something to start from. Sometimes we agree with it, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's pretty good, sometimes it ain't. All right, so intricate world of advanced content creation technology. If you're, and I told it to write this for intermediate content creators because not everything, especially people hanging out, you've done this before. So you're an intermediate to advanced creator seeking to push the boundaries of your craft. You found your ultimate resource, and then there's a bunch of little cartoons in there. In this chat, we're going to delve deep into the cutting edge tools and techniques that are revolutionizing the content creation landscape, from cinematography and editing to post-production and distribution. This will be a guide to elevating your content to the next level of excellence. Perhaps, at least you'll get my perspective on it. What you can expect for advanced camera tech, we've got pro-level editing, we've got audio excellence, innovative lighting, set design, and then it just wrote a bunch of stuff down there. So we'll keep an eye on the poll over here. Oh, I guess I can't keep an eye on the poll over here. I can keep that poll way up here. Looks like we got a vote now for 3D and animation. So the first one, advanced camera tech unveiled. Explore the realm of high-end cameras, lenses, and accessories that can turn your visions into reality. We'll discuss sensor technologies, dynamic range enhancements, and low light mastery, empowering you to capture the perfect shot every time. Okay, well, I don't think any of that's important anymore. So this is 2023, and the tech and the tools are just in our phones now. We don't really need anything more than that. I'm sure you're going to find people that disagree with me for sure, because they want you to buy stuff with their links. They bought something and they want to justify that purchase. They only like high quality edit audio, video, whatever it happens to be. So therefore, everything should be that way. I'll say no, you don't need any of that. I've seen moms and grandmoms, single dads and dudes with 3 jobs. I've seen people with their thumbs on their phones make thousands and thousands of dollars a month. I've seen people have huge audiences and giant viewerships or audience space, I guess, whatever when you call like live shows, with very little effort into technology, sometimes not even turning on the cameras. And I've heard of I know some people in podcasts that are in the top 10. I know Clover's in the top 10 of all podcasts. And that's not done with technology. That's done with doing stuff. It's done by other means. So I'm not going to say that this part about high-end camera technology means high-end cameras, lenses, and all that. I think, in fact, that's going to hurt you more than anything, because one, you're going to have a bunch of money in the first place. You're going to waste it all on cameras, or you're going to have to get a bunch of money and waste it all on cameras. And I have seen that happen before. Whenever Clover's not here, you got to listen to me drink coffee, because what am I going to do? Got to drink coffee. It's the morning. So I've seen people spend way too much money on cameras, way too much time and effort on cameras, and then figure out, oh, also you need tripods. Oh, you need lights. Oh, you need audio to go with that. Oh, you need to then edit all that film you get. Oh, now my shit still doesn't look good because cameras aren't magic. You can still buy a really expensive camera and point it at the wrong thing, point it at the feet, have it out of focus, have it all washed out. Just because you got a bunch of levers and knobs, there isn't some magic that makes you turn the levers and knobs the right way. It just makes potentially more room for error. So now you're filming things 2 or 3 times. And since your camera's so good, you got to make sure everything's so perfect, because everything matters. And now you're stressing everybody out, filming things 5 times, 3 times. Even if you have to film things twice, you're stressing people out unnecessarily. And in 2023, I don't think we're living in a world where the the production value or the quality of the image or the quality of the sound or the quality of whatever characteristic you want to pick, or any group of them. I don't think any of that is what's uh, the determining factor, period. It might be a factor. There are people that champion those things and they happen to be successful, but we're not seeing Formula One racers as the only thing. You can still do NASCAR, you can still do other kind of racing, you can still race motorcycles. So you can do other things besides have fancy cameras. So this advanced camera tech, let's talk about other things besides fancy cameras. Apps. So you've got your phone. Doesn't even matter what phone you have. The nicer the phone, the better the camera. Phones are $200 phones, $150 phones, and their cameras are amazing. They're fast. They can do whatever I want. I could probably download other apps into them to make the cameras even better. But other apps that let you add filters or fiddle with it. I guess we're going to talk about that when we get into editing a little bit. But because there's these other things you can do with editing, cameras are less and less and less and less and less critical. Less and less and less resource needs to be spent on the camera part. And I'll just go ahead and add that to editing, and I'll add that to audio, and I guess lighting as well. Lighting, yes, you need lighting, sure. Even a fancy camera does better with good lighting, but LED light panels are super cheap now, and just finding a decent one, light ring if you like them, light bar. There's multiple ways to get LED lights around, or flooding or bouncing or doing whatever you need to do with old-fashioned lighting. You just do it now with LED, and it takes less batteries. It's more durable, smaller probably, and then brighter. So anything that used to be an issue with lighting now is solved with LEDs and better batteries. And let me know if I'm wrong, because I don't go around buying all these things, but I experience other people buying them all the time. And waves or eras of carrying different things around. Some of the folks out here that know each other and people out there who know of these folks remember the time when they all went with phones and their, what do you call those rigs? You make like a frame around your phone and have your, I don't know. They had like their phone pointing one way and then maybe another action cam pointing another way, and then a microphone on there and a sound recorder, maybe lighting. And they put all that on that little rig, this like framework that you put your phone in, and kind of like a picture frame with your phone in the middle and all these type accessories on the outside. And it was decent. They're rigid. They were fairly strong for as fragile as they were, but they worked really well. And I remember a couple of years at Wanamaker, it seemed like those were the way to go. And then people have moved on, and I don't know if that's because they moved their cameras on. It wouldn't work for an SLR that way. But the cages out there called Snobbassine cage. If that's the kind of tech and stuff that's out there, where was I going with that? That kind of stuff, the people are going to like that, and some people are going to stick with it, and it's going to work for some people. Maybe if I don't know, you think of all the things people are doing, going out to the range, doing stuff over a gunsmith table, trying to be around a reloader's room who, is trying to reload. All these things are going to require different cameras and ideally different setups and stuff. And what you're going to get out of that, are you trying to build a how-to video? Are you trying to prove a point or illustrate a story or something, or archive a visit, these kind of things. Again, I think a capable camera or two, maybe even three cameras is better than any camera. So if you get a camera and a phone, am I saying cameras? I should say phones. One or two or three phones is my suggestion, as on top of any fancy camera. Unless cameras are your thing. Then if cameras are your thing, go nuts. Shove cameras into this whole thing and work around it. There's going to be people out there that like audio so much, especially with the podcasting realm and everything. And I'm sure that there's people that are going to disagree with me again and say, oh, podcasting has to be perfect and blah, blah, blah. And the top 1% of all podcasters. Well, I know the top 1% of some, not all the 1%. I know people in the top 1%. And yeah, they spend some money on their stuff, but they suck at it. They suck really hard at it. Being able to use it and all that. I mean, yeah, they have it. But it's like giving somebody a fancy car and they don't know how to drive stick. So yeah, they have it and they can get good product out of it, but that's all they can do. So they probably could have bought something half the price because they only need 2 or 3 of the levers. That's all they figured out how to work. And they could have got something cheaper. So just because somebody who's at that level is using that stuff doesn't necessarily mean it's necessary to get to that level. So that makes sense. So just because Michael Jordan, let's say, I don't know anything about sports. So just because Michael Jordan's using some brand of basketball, don't mean he couldn't do what he's doing with some other basketball. It ain't the basketball that makes him Michael Jordan, right? So I think it's the same thing with these implements. If we're capable with them and we're confident, to use them or whatever, then that's good. Know what it can do, know what it can't do. So if you know what your camera can't do, that's half the battle. If you're going to SHOT Show and you know what your cameras can't do or what your phones can't do, then just don't waste your time doing those things, and you're going to get probably all usable footage. Yeah, you might be frustrated that you wanted to go do something else. Let's say you can't get out to the range with your camera because your microphones aren't good and the noise or whatever. Clover can't happen, or Clover can't jump in. So, yeah, he might disagree with some of this stuff, but um, what I think is get the bare minimum and start using it, and then see what you prefer, see what you like, see what you're lacking in, and add to it. And if it gets into some kind of situation where you certainly, like if you can't get what you need to do done or something, and you have, like, let's say you're trying to do something with distance shots, you're trying to cover shooting sports, you're just not gonna be able to do that with a phone. Like, that's not gonna happen. You could try to jam your phone into some kind of an optic or something. Actually, that might be kind of neat. That would actually probably work, but it'd probably be a lot easier to just have a camera that can have a lens attachment. SLR means a old-fashioned style camera, essentially, that the lenses come off, and you can buy specific lenses for distance or for wide angle or for doing something else. So you could potentially have a situation out there where you need a specific camera. But again, I'm going to quit beating that horse and say that learning how to use your phone, watching some of the stuff on the short internet. So whatever the platform is, they have a short version of it now, a less than 1 minute version of video, or pictures, obviously. But I don't have to go through them all. You know what the short versions of everything are. Those lend themselves to very creative filming, and there's definitely going to be some editing we'll talk about here in just a moment. But the filming that you get yourself, once you know what your editors can do, you know how to film to work with those editors, the software that edits, and that allows you to use your phone in ways that emulate or get rid of the need for, let's say, a gimbal. If you know that you can, here, it's easy enough to just show you. If I turn my camera on here, I did bring, here, let me turn my camera on. I did bring cinnamon rolls for everyone. So cinnamon swirl cake, I should say. It's a cinnamon cake. It's not really cinnamon rolls, so you get your hopes up. It's a cinnamon cake. So if anybody wants any, you can have some of that. But let's say that you are trying to do a technique where you want to get a pan of this, knowing that you can put your phone down and do this while you're recording. So let me go ahead and do that. Turn everything on here. Bring up my phone app, right? So if I wanted to start filming a video and I needed to pan, knowing that I can use the table here, right, is one thing. But knowing that if I take, let's say, this receipt from O'Reilly, because I had to go buy some auto parts this morning, and if I put that underneath, look at how much smoother it glides. And I can hit record and steady the phone with my one hand, and now I can use this hand to pull. Now, I also have a gimbal that costs like $200 that can move my camera that way. But, do I need to carry around that really fragile $200 gimbal? Sometimes I need it. Sometimes it's ideal, and that's why I have it. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Learning how to use the things that you've got can be much better for you than saving up for or wasting your time learning. Let's say you learn the fanciest camera that's out there. What happens next year? Do they stop making fancy cameras and they go, no, we just came up with the last best camera. We're done developing cameras. Yeah, 2 more years, 3 more years, you're going to need a new camera because you're going to be frustrated with the one you got. So if you want to go down any of these lanes, go for it. I'm not just stifling anybody. I'm just saying that in order to be better at what we're doing, we don't need to pay for it. We can, got to pay for it in time and skills, skill building. But you can watch other people, you can collaborate, you can practice, and you can test things out and figure it out. Foss is saying it's almost easier for me to be more creative with shorts than longer videos. Well, I think it's certainly the case because you can play with a short. Nobody expects a short to be very long or to be very significant. So you can really play. And and then I think that because people are playing with their short videos, their short content, and there's a short audio also. There's always been commercials, but now people are making little plugs and little sounds for the short videos and everything else. So there is other short things happening, but we're of course focused on video most of the time. But yeah, I think there's more opportunity to see what's going on or kind of experience the fancy things that can be done, because you can watch a whole movie, and if they did an interesting thing with a camera in one scene of a 2-hour movie, what's the chance you're paying attention at that moment to witness that? I've seen some stuff where you don't think about it, but the way, like, let's say you have a telephone again. I'm going to go back to the camera here. Let's say that we've got a telephone. Let's say that this is the person and this is the telephone. I saw something where they held the telephone here in front of the person and then came up to a door and then opened the door, kind of went in the room a little bit as if it was that first person point of view. And then, they started it off like this. Hold the phone. The person was coming up to the door, and then as they were knocking on the door and the door opens, the phone goes forward. And this is just the person standing behind the actor, holding the phone and shoving it out there. And then the actor walking forward a little bit, and then the phone eventually coming into the room and going like this. For that little setup there, for a person to have that camera between them and then behind them and around them and orbit them a little bit and then get behind and see the whole room, like that'd have been difficult for a regular camera setup because they would have had stuff all around and lighting and everything. So they would have had to do that as like different angles and set up different shots and stuff, where a phone just lets you do it and be creative and play. So in a 2-hour movie, if they're doing something like that with a phone or with an action camera or something, unless it's obvious, like it's on the end of a stick on somebody who's hang gliding or something, where it's the only way they could have filmed it, then it can be a little frustrating to learn from other people. You can be experiencing interesting stuff and not realize that it's technique and not editing or something. All right, so been chatting about camera stuff. I'm around 20 minutes in, so I'll keep going. So next, editing. Well, I'm going to get rid of audio because I could care less about audio. I knew people in the radio realm, and that's probably where I got sick of audio. And now there's people in the podcasting realm, and they think they're so good because their podcasts are better than mine. That's fine. There's a lot of podcasts better than mine. But they also think that their podcast is better than mine because of the audio. And, that might be true. But then they're also suggesting that someone comes along and buys a better piece of audio equipment than they have, then they're going to lose their spot. I don't think that's the way it is. I'll get rid of this. I don't think that's the way it is. I think audio is, there's a quality that people expect. And then once you've met that, it's beyond what most people aren't paying attention to. I could be wrong on that. And, there's, again, in podcasting and stuff, whatever. But I think as long as you can be clear and hear the audio, you're good to go. Now let's get to the editing. There's some podcasts out there that I've listened to recently. Ed's Manifesto, for one. De Moliere is another one, where they add elements, and I'm sure other podcasts do this. I guess NPR used to do this back in the day on the radio, so this isn't anything new. But I've heard some podcasts that I listen to that started doing it or have been doing it, and that's like adding some background noise or adding some background, like if they're talking about a taco shop in Tijuana, there's some street noise, and it would be street noise from Tijuana that somebody recorded, and that kind of stuff just coming up during pauses or as a break to a commercial or something can be the same as editing stuff in a video, I think. Let's see. Oh, no worries. Kind of just rambling here. I've been blabbing. Unapologetically Armed is asking what she missed. I've just been rambling here for 20 minutes about how I don't think editing video is that big a deal, at least buying a fancy camera. So then I switched to saying I don't think audio is all it's cracked up to be once you reach the level of clarity. Once you get noise-free, decent audio, you're good to go. Now I know that there's people that are going to fight me on that. But we're talking 2023 when a phone is totally capable. A phone with those little microphone thingies like what Pink gave me. Do I have them out here? Yeah. These little things, I keep showing them. These things plug into your phone. This one doesn't work for me. Wait, this one does work. This one won't charge, I think, is what's happening. So when you plug this case into the charger, and now it's charged, there's a battery in this case, and these lights are telling me that the case itself is charged up right now. Okay, and then I guess when you put them down, these things charge, and I don't know what the lights indicate. This thing plugs into your phone, and it's the receiver. These are microphones that go on people. So this is like a $30 package or something. People upgrade these. Pink donated them to me. So I think he's upgrading to a newer pair. I don't know if they're that much nicer. I know Gizzard has one. I'm pretty sure Snob has a set. So those along with a phone, awesome, amazing, like really, really good quality. I know those guys did their podcast with it. I know somebody who's in the top 10% of all podcasts, and he uses something similar to that. So I really think that with just an adequate amount of tech, you're good to go. So I'm not claiming static and noise and anything goes, but once you're to the level of decent, and we're talking intermediate level here. So once you're to a competent level, you're comfortable and you're competent, and you know that there's not stuff that you can get rid of with better equipment, then quit buying equipment. And then start thinking about some editing and start thinking about what you're talking about and who you're talking to and who the audience is for that. Because I think in 2023, again, there's going to always be snobs. There's always going to be people who are only looking for the fanciest. They got to do everything with their pinky out. And then there's people that are the other way who don't need anything fancy. They want everything rough or raw. And there's most people in between. So most people are in that in between and can accept an issue or two if what they're getting is what they're looking for. So then it becomes what we're talking about. And we'll probably talk about that in a different show or whatever. Because I'm trying to chat this or make this one more about the advanced techniques. And since Clover's not here to talk about his stuff because he's buying some new podcast equipment, that's kind of what I was thinking we talk about. I'm going to talk about what I've been seeing as far as editing. And I'm just going to blow off lighting because I think the answer to all lighting these days is get something that's LED that you like. That's it. Find out something that's LED, that has a battery lifespan that works for you. I think a light ring has been working so well for me for things lately. But some people I know aren't going to like the ring part of it. I already don't like it as far as carrying it around. But bars and bricks or panels are certainly easier to deal with, and I'm assuming as bright. So that's what all I'll say about lighting is, get something decent, and now we can jump over to editing. DJ's out there dropping links. Thank you. GunTube.org, good place to put your stuff when you're once you've created it. Okay, so now let's get to editing because I really think that's where we get into some in 2023 where you can get the most bang for your buck. And I'm curious to hear what people use for editing apps and softwares and that kind of thing. So I'll start at the top with computer software. And when we're talking editing for content creation, you can definitely get by with free software. There are open source programs out there. Find the names of them if you need them, but we're talking intermediate here so people know what I'm talking about. You can get open source stuff. So in other words, software that no one owns, that no company owns the patent on. Instead, a bunch of capable people got together and started to create a project, and then they left the keys in it, and anybody who comes along can drive it someplace else or take it in a different direction. And if people like that new direction, that becomes the new version, and it evolves. And sometimes that's to meet a demand. Sometimes that's to include a new feature. Let's say when vector software started to include uh, like three-dimensional aspects to it. Like those things are creeping along and creeping along. People wanted them more, and somebody figured out how to address them in the software, and it was added to the next version of the software. And those things are great. There's very little disadvantage other than, just like anything, if you're going to learn something that's unique, then you're making that decision. So just make sure you're jumping into a software, a program, or um, a project that is going to be there for the long haul, or that's established enough to do what you're going to need it to do. And that's something that we could easily have a conversation about. So you've got free software, you've got open source software to do everything. You can do video editing, you can do image creation and manipulation, you can do three-dimensional stuff, that kind of thing. You can do audio editing, I already say that one. So you can definitely do, and then you can even do audio, audio editing, I already said that. You can pretty much do all of these things. It's just that the only real disadvantage there is that you're going to be, some in a smaller, well, no matter what group you go into, you're going to be in a smaller, what's the word, like user group, user base than the mainstream, the largest things. So in imaging, there's Photoshop, and that's what most people are using. Everybody's sort of Photoshop. It's sort of like Kleenex or something now. It just means going in and editing a video, a digital image is like photoshopping it, but it's really a name of software that now Adobe owns it, and it's a subscription service, so it costs money, and it's a subscription, so you can't just buy it once and make the decision and be done with it and own it forever. It used to be like that, and it is possible to get older versions of it like that, but really it's now it's more of a commitment. Now it's more of um, a subscribe type of thing, and then once you end the subscription, it's over. So it's definitely not for everybody, and it's not inexpensive. It's $50 a month. So I'm not trying to sell it to you. It's not the um, only focus what we're talking about here. But when we're talking about the overall realm, we've got that open source stuff, which is the alternative. You've got the Adobe, and then you've got the other softwares. Adobe's not the only one. There was probably 3 or 4 large ones, and then years ago they started to separate, kind of differentiate themselves from each other. Some of them lasted, some of them didn't, but the ones that lasted exist. Now the thing is, most of them are either digital images, or video, or audio, and then a couple of them might be both. Like it might be digital, it might be video and audio, or it might be photo and digital. I keep saying digital, photo and video, but yeah, I'm trying to think now. I'm trying to think of too many things. There's definitely going to be more of a one-trick pony when you're dealing with the non-Adobe products. And the only thing that Adobe has going for it, that one of the reasons it's so large, is that you buy a package, and when you subscribe to Adobe, you can easily subscribe to all of their software packages. So that's the appeal. Sort of like Macintosh. Some people like it, some people don't. The people that like it like that their phone and their computer and their iPad and their watch are all going to just talk to each other. It's sort of like that with Adobe. That's one of the features people dig, is the what I use on my phone, what I use on my computer, what I go to work and use on the computer there. They're all talking to each other in the cloud, and it's one of the features. So then those are the big things, right? You got your open source stuff, you got your paid for stuff, and those are usually software packages, or at least they were software packages and then developed into apps and things. But most of them are kind of existing and doing what they're doing. Well, I'm going to use the example of removing a background from an image. Let's say you got a person standing in a field and you want to remove the field. You just need that person standing there for some other project. That used to be kind of a tedious thing, and then it got a little easier as software becomes smarter. And now that there's AI, it's much easier for the software itself or plugins to the software to crop out or to figure out what's this thing and what's that thing, and what, even though this is just an image, let's recognize what's going on here and know what the humans want to do. So that removing the background from an image used to be something that was kind of difficult. You needed to use software that could at least use a transparent background, and that meant you were limited to not all the softwares out there, because not all file types can be transparent. There's a whole bunch of file types, images, that have to have some color. So if you have an orange circle, there's going to be a white background or some other color background to it. But in certain file types, newer, whatever, not newer, but technically newer, but in other file types, you can have just that orange ball. And even if it's a file, it's not necessarily a square file with an orange ball in it. It's now just an orange ball. That's the size of the file. So anyway, so some of these packages could use those kind of files, and some couldn't, and that's where we start to see the development of these different softwares. So I'm reading Gizzards' comments here. I like the iMovie and the on the Mac platform. It's native to the OS and it works well. There are compatible versions for the iPhone and the iPad, and it's all free. So that's part of your OS. Isn't there, am I wrong? Isn't there a fancier version, like a Studio or something, that you can get also? It might cost something, but I think unless they've incorporated it into iMovie, for like advanced editing or something, I think there's another level up. Or you just buy Adobe, I guess, and run it on your Mac. But here's the thing. So we've been talking about the stuff that happened back in the day. So I was talking about removing images, removing the background from an image and just having that person standing in the field, right? So that kind of stuff wasn't on your free versions of software, just because it wasn't capable. Like, they didn't have that kind of tech to do it. They gave you some tools that you could remove backgrounds. So you'd have like a paintbrush and you'd remove the background. But imagine trying to draw a line with your mouse between somebody's hair and grass behind them. It's just really tough. So it's going to look really choppy. It's going to look really bad. So we all experience living through those years. And now what we're dealing with is a time when, to address those specific issues, people came up with apps. So as the internet developed and first computers developed and software developed, and then the internet got created, and then internet connectivity became a more and more useful thing as internet got faster and more people were fast. And then, we started to have shared software and online services, the social platforms and that kind of thing. But, and that's how our Adobe connects to each other and that kind of thing. So what we've got now, though, is people that developed apps to do this or that or the other thing. Maybe an app to find you all the dog parks in town, or an app to, I don't know, help you do something or whatever. So as people came up with these apps, somebody said, something that we need is to remove the background from somebody in the field. And somebody came up with an app to do that. And then somebody else said, hey, it would be great if we could remove the background from a video instead of just an image, like, remove the background from a whole video. And then someone said, well, that would take a lot of computer power. Well, they said, hey, if we do that computer power over here and rent that computer power from Amazon only when we need it, then we can offer that service to a whole bunch of people, and they're only going to need it once in a while. So we're only going to need to flip on the switch 3 or 4 moments out of the day. But, we can have this app offering the service 24/7. And that's sort of how we see the development of some of these apps that are out there now. And so now there's very capable apps that took over some of the tasks, some of the jobs that we needed these large software packages to do. Because 99% of the stuff in the software package, we don't care about the giant software package. We could do it in any software. It's just those complicated tasks were the ones that, and still are the ones that you need the fancy software for. And I'm not an advocate for getting rid of the software. I subscribe to Adobe. I encourage you, if you're on the fence, try it out, get a trial. Gizzard and I both have links out there somewhere. You can check it out with one of our links, and that'd be great. But if you're not interested in doing all that because it's not your thing, or you don't have time for it, or it's not your passion, then don't. You don't need to have that whole Adobe thing anymore. Finally, what I'm getting to here is in the editing thing in 2023, there are literally apps to do singly, like individual things you might want to have done. Let's say you just need to pull one person's voice out of an audio recording. There's an app that can do just that. If you need to, I don't know, remove a person from a field, there's an app to do just that. And maybe it's free, maybe it's $5 and you have it for 2 months or so. Maybe it's some temporary cost or maybe an in-app purchase type of thing to do more than 3 searches a day or 3 edits a day. Or maybe it's $10 a month and you can do this much stuff. And a lot of them are subscription based, like $3-4 a month. $10 a month gets you their pro plan type of thing when they're one trick ponies. So we lived for a little bit with those, but now AI has hit the scene. And even right before AI hit the scene, some of those smaller apps got bought up by the larger software packages or merged and became larger. And so what we started to see there for a minute before AI hit the scene was these apps, some apps combining. It wasn't like a done deal. They were all going to combine and that was the next wave. We still have lots of independent apps to do independent things. So if, for example, you're not interested in figuring out to do this with your computer or your phone, because your phone can just do this. But if you just wanted to, or Instagram can do this. But if you needed to take a color picture and turn it black and white, and for some reason you needed an app to do that, or you had an application or you had a project where an app would fit that task, you need an app to do this. You can find that app out there to turn color into black and white. So I guess that's where I'm getting at is you can get to these apps, you can find what you're looking for. The new apps that have come around, Canva is the big one, CapCut is another one. There's more, but there's these new apps which are essentially mini versions of Photoshop, or not Photoshop, but Adobe, the whole package of Adobe. But they went and found the tasks that people do most often for content creation specifically. So what we do for content creation is a little bit different than what somebody's going to do for publishing. And that's a little bit different than what you're going to do for web design. That's a little bit different than what, I don't know, some other kind of marketing is going to do. And that's totally different than what somebody on a spreadsheet is going to do. And that's different than what somebody who's building computer games is doing. So, right, we've all got our ways that we're doing stuff. But then these software packages allow, or have kind of come together and offer you, usually at a subscription or some free version, the ability to do some really powerful stuff. And then what happens is after a few years of these software packages or these options being available, is now we see the content creators using those tools in all kinds of creative, interesting ways. And that has led to change the appetite of the content of the consumer, the people who are watching stuff and participating in stuff. So it's pretty neat to be in this realm right now because there's so many options or so many potential routes to take to get to an end goal. Again, if you were going to do some kind of content creation where you were going to take a person and put them in front of news of the day, some kind of story, whatever. There's a story about a flood somewhere. So you're going to get a picture of that flood that you can use and then put your reporter, your article writer, whatever that's called, a journalist in front of the thing. And you would have needed Photoshop or some sort of software to do that task of cutting that person out of their background and layering on top of the background you wanted to have them in backup. Well, now you can just do that on any number of apps with your thumb, click, click, click. You can create some templates or some custom built paths or, recipes to accomplish some things. So go ahead and open up this picture, remove this from it and then put it on top of the next picture I request. And once the computer's kind of used to that, and you can do that quickly, we're in a time when it's really possible to spend some time looking at what's going on the line, and then just a bit of time either collaborating with others who are into this kind of stuff or figuring out yourself, but essentially figuring out what it is that you saw that you liked and then creating it. And sometimes, every once in a while, you're going to find something that's just so difficult or so costly or so process sensitive. There's hardly anything that's even process an issue. It's just mostly complexity. If there's something that's so complex that it's unique, but pretty much anything that's even the complex stuff can now be broken down into chunks and duplicated or replicated through either AI or artificial or like a fake way. So I think these tools, the editing tools specifically, are the ones that if I was recommending to someone who's getting into content creation for the first time, I'd say get something to take pictures and audio and video with, so a phone, and then take a bunch of stuff, get some content, and then start editing. And probably getting experience with different editors. I don't know, with the way things the pace of things lately, it's tough to know how many of these are going to be the gold standard, how many of these are going to become the ones to go that are going to stand the test of time. So Canva certainly has shown a lot of potential, but Adobe Express is the paid version, is another version. It's a subscription-based version that's similar, and well, not similar. It's way better to me. I used Canva for a bit and figured out what it can do, and it's essentially a quick version of Adobe Illustrator. It's like a little, if Adobe Illustrator is a big thick book, this was like a little pocket notebook you could put in your pocket. Canva is just this like little quick thing. Like you only need to do a couple little things, and you don't need the giant book all the time. They just write down enough stuff to get you doing what you're doing. Every once in a while, you still got to open up the big thing, but once you get used to that little book and you understand where everything's at in it, you get used to it. You hardly ever open the big one anymore. And that's what Adobe Express does, is they figured out that, hey, okay, people don't need the whole thing open anymore. They really just need to take yesterday's picture and adjust it a little bit and call it today's picture. Or right now, what's happening, unfortunately, is a lot of people are just washing the internet with content by saying, hey, go to a robot and say, hey, give me 50 topics, and then write 50 articles, and then put those 50 articles with 50 pictures, and then post those over the next 50 days. We're seeing a lot of stuff like that, which these software packages are able to do. And that'll be one of the next things, is how we, as the people who experience this and use the internet while that stuff's happening, how we react to it, and how we react to it. Because if we end up purchasing things and they make money, they'll keep doing that kind of stuff. But more than likely, that kind of stuff will get, it'll come and go. It'll just get no long-term response, and they'll quit doing it. But they'll leave us the tools that they were using to do that stuff. And I don't know if they drove the reason for these tools or if they just exploited what the tools could do. But these tools are pretty powerful. All right, I see SheFire's jumped in, so I'll go back and see what's going on with the chat. We're getting close to the hour, so I guess I was able to chat for this stuff, even though it's probably not what Clover would have talked about today. SheFire's jumping in, saying Canva is great. Yeah, I like Canva. It's just that I already pay for Adobe Express, and I haven't used Canva in a little while. I know they've added some AI and some stuff that I thought was kind of cool, but they're like 80% the same, if not more than that. Maybe somebody who's used them both. But I'm already paying for the Adobe, so Adobe includes the Adobe Express, and essentially the amount of time it took me to figure out Canva is how much time it took me to figure out Adobe Express. And they're a tiny bit different, but no more different than sitting in a Ford dashboard and sitting in a Chevy and looking at the two dashboards. You figure everything out real quick. And they drive essentially the same. When you pay for them, though, that's the big thing. So whichever way you go, I don't know if there must be a free version of Adobe, because I keep seeing the premium stuff. So there must be either a free or a cheaper version of Adobe Express. there is a free version of Canva, and that is one of the nice things. Like I mentioned, there's quite a few free options out there, and Canva offers a free one that's very useful. I mean, you can use a lot of Canva for free. I don't know what paying for it even really gives you. Actually, I do. What paying for it gives you is more archives, more libraries of pictures and images and stuff, and that's where I notice for me the difference with Adobe, because I'm unlocked on Adobe. I can get any image over there. On Canva, when I was using both, Canva had way more pictures and better pictures, but Adobe has blown them away. I mean, Adobe must have been rolling it out in stages, because this time last year when I was just using Canva and barely using Adobe Express and really getting used to Canva, and I was assuming I was going to be paying for Canva. In fact, if they would have given Gizzard a thing, I would have started paying for Canva back last year, I think. But they didn't. And because of that, I kept using the free version of Canva, and I kept running into, you can't use that. You can't, we don't, here's a cool one, but you can't use it. Here's a neat template. You can't use it. You have to pay for that one. And I think at the time there was only two things to pay for. Either you paid nothing or you paid something. And if you paid something, you got everything from Canva. And I think it was $30 a month. It wasn't cheap, but it felt like you were going to get quite a bit of useful stuff for it. Well, I went over to Adobe, started using it, and at the time, there was a fraction. It was just a little bit of stuff on Adobe, so it wasn't hard to master and figure it all out. But you'll notice on the Ask Gun Questions images, I started out using Canva a long time ago when I'd make the Clover and Tony cartoons, and the Canva images are all goofy and dumb and look open source, like they look shitty, like they look goofy. And the Adobe ones, they look goofy and stupid, but all the good stuff is open too, and that's just normal pictures and normal stuff. So whichever one you go with, I would say paying for it is probably, if it's not worth it immediately, put it in your short term budget, because it'll unlock so many things that I can't even imagine how much time I'd be spending if I was trying to find all the stuff that I have available to me in Adobe. Just like, let's say a stock image of the state of Arizona. Like, it'd take me like 5 minutes or something, 2 minutes to go look around on the web and find a free one to use or make one or something. And there's just already one in there. So if you're paying for Canva, if you're paying for Adobe, that's the way to go. Now, some of these other softwares out there, some of the other packages offer things like that. So I don't have a subscription, or I don't have an account with a free picture place, but there's people that do. So that's not going to be an issue for them. If Canva doesn't offer enough images, it might work in what's the word, in cahoots with some other service you have, and that might be another free service or a cheap service. I don't think it's that much in a month, but I'd have to look. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I know it was more than I immediately was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely getting Canva. And I'm glad I waited, because then I learned Adobe. So it was enough to make me go learn Adobe. If Canva would have been a little bit cheaper, I wouldn't even be talking Adobe. And Adobe would have scared me, and I'd been acting like it kind of so good. But I think it's definitely worth paying. Either one you go with, or if you go with a different software package that I don't even know about, I'm going to assume that the free one is a good way to experience it. Since we're talking advanced level, I'll take a second here to offer this to pretty much any of these things, but it's certainly easier with software than with the other things. But you can apply it. If you can borrow a camera from somebody, or if you can get your hands on a camera for a project or something, certainly apply this. But with the software packages that are out there, there's so many of them that are either free or offer a introduction. Try those different introductions. Include it in the plan for your project, and however you're scheduling your project's growth and development. Include in there, or make part of your plan to spend time on these editing packages like Canva. Or if Canva is too much, because Canva's got a lot of girly garbage in there. Like, if you're not a girl making wedding stuff, or I don't know, a teacher making Halloween stuff for your classroom, there's a lot of Canva that's useless. Like, most of it is for people that are doing stuff for little kids or magazine ads or something, for stuff we ain't using. So if you go in there and there's like 90% of it you ain't using, maybe go find an app that does, like I was mentioning before, an app that just does the one task you need done. Like now Canva can pull backgrounds out really fast. I think you still have to pay for Canva to do that. And I don't know how it is on Adobe. Both of them can do it at the paid level for sure, where you just take your picture, bring it into Canva, remove background, take that picture without the background, and it's a second picture now. Just do whatever you're going to do with it. But there's no reason to pay for Canva for all of that if that's really all you're going to do. Go find an app that can do that, and either that app will cost you $7 or something, period, or it'll cost you a couple of bucks a month, or maybe it's every 20 downloads it's $1 or something. Like they'll come up with some schedule to charge you that's nowhere near as much what the monthly or what the full rate would be. All right, so I don't think there's one way to go. I don't think there's a best plan. I think that if you're super busy and you want to accomplish something, sometimes not using any of these options is the way to go. And that's the one that's not on this list because robots don't have feelings. But the robot wrote this without any kind of mention of other people or learning skills in collaboration or conjunction with others. So let's say you wanted to get really awesome footage of the J.M. Davis Museum. Well, you could effort to do all that, or you could hook up with somebody who's already been to J.M. Davis Museum. There's 3 or 4 people in this room that probably have J.M. Davis footage that's really good because they had really decent cameras when they took it, and they spent a day or two there, maybe even more over the years, and maybe they have the footage you're looking for. So now, instead of going around doing a bunch of stuff and listening to everything I just said here and doing any of this as advice, instead you're just aware of everything we talked about here, and then you just short circuited it and you hook up with Gizzard and you make some arrangement, some kind of a trade or back and forth, and then now you've got some decent footage. You can move on with whatever your other projects are, and you didn't have to spend a bunch of time learning or buying or developing. But again, everybody's projects are different, everybody's time and ambitions are different. I'm not going to suggest that you outsource or pay someone to do all your skills for you. There's quite a bit of enjoyment or satisfaction, I guess, in learning some of this stuff and accomplishing some stuff, especially if you are, if that's part of what you're getting out of everything that you're doing. On the other hand, if it's not something that you value and it's certainly not something that you want to waste time on, there are, again, going to be apps out there. Take a look around. And you don't have to find them. If you don't know how to find apps, I don't know how to find apps. I know about apps. I hear about them. It doesn't mean I spend my time looking for them. Talk to other people. Find out what the name of one. Hey, does somebody know an app that can do this? Even if they don't, they might be able to ask 3 people. And if you ask 10 people to ask 3 people, that's getting the answer. It's getting a spread of 30 people or whatever that comes out to. So these are topics that we talk about on Thursdays. We're getting to about the hour mark. And I saw that a couple of people who said they were going to show up didn't show up today, but then a whole bunch of people showed up who we didn't expect or that don't show up every single week. So thanks everybody for joining us. I'll go through the comments here and make sure that we're not missing anything, but we do have a poll going. So we'll take a look at that first. What is your favorite tech for content creation? So another way to say that is, what is your favorite aspect of content creation, I guess? And what we got for answers, I guess I can't put them up on the screen, but maybe I can do this. I don't know how well that's going to look. That kind of gives you the answers. So what was your favorite tech for content creation? Cameras, crazy, came in number 1. Editing tech, though, came in above audio, and I think on different audiences would come up differently there for sure. And then kind of as expected, 3D animation technology came in last. I forget, maybe just a vote or 2, though. Now, you like what you like, don't like what you don't like. I've played with Blender, which is a open source, a free version of a 3D software. And then I've also used Fusion 360, another kind of both. They have a free version until you reach a certain amount of money, and then they like you to pay for it. And creating in 2D, 2-dimensional is fun. Creating in 3-dimensionals, once you understand the tools, the brushes and the paint brushes and the techniques a little bit, it's a lot of fun and it's super useful. There's so many things you can do with 3D stuff, animations, and still that. Be careful, I guess. What I'm getting at is it's certainly addictive. So it's good that we don't have that many people into the 3D and tech. On the other hand, we do. We know that there are quite a few visualizations that have been made with three-dimensional firearms, showing you how the action works, or showing you, I don't know, some aspect of firearm stuff, through like a model. That three-dimensional modeling, that doesn't just happen. That happens in this kind of software that we're talking about. So there are people that make money doing it, and there's people that do interesting, flashy things with it. But think about how much further along we'd be if people were using that power, that tech, to create awareness. So I always want to throw that out there. And that's one of the reasons I'm playing with the 3D software. Oh, dang, she fires through a super chat at us. Pug Snack Fund. Well, I'll shake this bag of chips around. Oh, look who came running. He's been sleeping with Mello because I've been working on the van. And when I did that, for the first time in this little dog's time here, I closed the gates and everything and made it so they could run around the backyard by themselves. And because normally they don't go outside on their own. So I'm afraid that this little dog is going to get caught by a raptor or some kind of a vulture and get taken away from me. Hey, go over here. And but I was working on the van or whatever, and I wanted to see, if he's going to be a good dog or not. If he's going to be a kind of dog that snoops around the whole time looking for gaps in the fence, trying to escape all the time, or if he's the kind of dog that hangs out. Hey, he's the kind of dog that steals biscuits. That's the kind of dog he is. Look, he's coughing up the biscuit because he ate it so quickly from stealing it that he couldn't even eat it. He had to inhale 2 biscuits, and now he's paying for it. He came over here and stole them. So there's the evidence of the stuff, the thievery. Now he's eating the evidence, but he's chewing it this time at least. So that's what happens when he just tries to inhale the food. But then here is an actual from She Fires. Thank you very much. That's for the first $5, and then here's for the other $5. That's $10 worth of biscuits for this dog. We'll also, in honor of She Fires and Woods, who can't get enough of this thing. Forgot I put it into his bag. Here, come back over here, buddy. We'll also, since we're closing down, we'll put his hot dog suit on because Woods likes him to wear his hot dog outfit. It's his hot dog not a sandwich costume, which he cosplays when he goes to hot dog conventions. This is his cosplay. He plays a hot dog not a sandwich. And he's got flashing mustard, of course. So again, thanks for the super chat. But that's what we've been chatting about today is content creation and there he goes. He's leaving. All right, take your hot dog off. We'll just leave his hot dog laying here. Get ready. You get out of here. So anyway, I was saying that he's kind of exhausted. He's been hanging out with his Mellow over there, and they're essentially just sleeping because they've been constantly running around for like the last day and a half. Okay, now I'm less distracted with the hot dog suit, and Foss is saying, the mustard is good when it flashes. Exactly. When it's sparkly mustard, that's the best kind of mustards. Burrito costume, as soon as I see one cheap, he'll have a burrito costume. Or maybe I'll make one out of tortillas. If I made one out of tortillas and let them outside, a raptor would definitely eat them. I would think like I was wrapping them up as a burrito for them. So I'd have to be careful with that. That's why I don't let them outside with the hot dog costume. Anyhow, that went off the rails quick there. So if you've got any comments about this one, feel free to leave them in the comments wherever you happen to watch this. Show up for us, join us live on a Tuesday, and bring a topic. I was going to go back here and read some of the topic or the comments just in case I am missing something here. But as I'm wrapping up here, we I usually have Clover join me on Tuesdays, and we'll talk about whatever issues that have to do with content creation, ideally Second Amendment focused content creation, but gun related stuff, things that we have to deal with as people that are persecuted for the choice to own the property that we own. And the biggest nuisance that we've got, the biggest problem, is that a bunch of people want to exploit the rift that's created by ignorance, that's created by the unawareness or the non-understanding of guns, and the lack of awareness, the lack of common knowledge allows the antis, the people with agendas, to suggest that guns are either violent or dangerous or whatever it was, right? So, ideally, to engage with those people in the middle, engage with those people on the other side, or people on our side who are interested in the conversation. But getting better at delivery, more interesting at delivery, is what it's all about. So that's what we're talking about today with the skills and techniques, or I mean the tools and techniques of content creation. But I turned it more into the current tools that give us specific, what's the word, like specific results. Like I say, to remove the background, to add some music, to create a slideshow, whatever it is that people are trending, paying attention to, digging, getting the message through with, being able to use the tools to accomplish that is what we're attempting to chat about today. Or not really chat about, but put a spotlight on. All right, I'll just go backwards through here. Huck is saying working throughout. We'll re-listen. Right on. Hopefully everything's going good. I'm assuming you're up still in the Michigan. I don't know what Snob is saying there's some kind of GG, whatever that means. R4 Mississippi Thunder's joining us. Good evening. Let's see. I'm going to just scroll through. We got Foss out there and Gizzard. Thank you for joining us. She Fires, again, thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Snob is out there, if I didn't already say. I do have this broadcasting on 3 channels. I probably should have pulled it off of the GunTuber, but I never know Clover is going to be here, so I'm paying for StreamYard again. Thanks to our Patreons who make it possible for us to pay for subscriptions like this. People that subscribe to what we do over on the Patreon platform. Essentially, most people are buying us a cup of coffee each month, like $5 or whatever. And then a couple of people are buying us lunch, like $20 or something. And that accumulates, and it pays us out once a month. It accumulates and lets us pay for the 3 servers that we run, all the domain names and the different software, kind of the stuff we've been talking about here. I pay for, we buy the ChatGPT subscription. That's like $25. I'll probably change that to something else, to a different type of AI when I have a chance to get into them again. But I use that AI constantly. It's super useful. And there's a couple of other softwares that I've got my eye on. There's at least one new one that I really need to get on, and then 2 more that I'm kind of bugging to get trying out. So we'll chat about different things like that in the future. But again, thanks to the Patreons that make it possible for us to even consider putting out funding for projects like, or for software like that. AR Guns joined us. Welcome. And seeing if there's any questions. Gizzard was talking about the software for the Mac. I think somewhere in here you talked about is it further up? You talked about the price on the iMovie or whatever, but he's saying that the Mac OS just lets you click on a person and it'll automatically remove the background. So whatever it is, whatever the brain power that figured that out, must be easier and easier every day. Snob is talking about a place he uses for free stock images and videos called Pexels. I guess they have a free version or not. I've used a couple of different free image places, and you get what you pay for. Free is free. Gizzard is saying he pays for the Canva. I think you mentioned that before. Also Snob. But I thought Gizzard, yeah, he said that Final Cut Pro is $300. Yeah, that's a similar to a couple of $20 a month subscription, or wait, almost $30 a month subscription to something. DJ dropped some links, gun calendars, some others. Unapologetically armed, back and forth as well. That's the pitfall to doing it weekdays during the business hours. But yeah, if anybody wants to chat at a different time of day, if you're listening to this as a recording and you're wishing that we do a live at some other time, let us know, because Clover obviously couldn't show up to this one either. So this isn't necessarily a good time. We just picked this time. This isn't, I don't really care when we do it. And like I say, it doesn't seem to work real good for Clover all the time either. So if we want to do this in the evening or something, give us some feedback. Woods is out there. I don't know if I said hey to Unapologetically Armed enough, so they're another saying hey to her, and hopefully you had a good adventure with the National Convention. I'm curious to see what kind of response outcome from the event. I know from the DC project, from that aspect, I've gotten some feedback, but I'm looking forward to more of the feedback from more of the people that joined the event. Foss is out there, and Ricardo. I'm probably jumping in on the GunTuber side, I'm assuming, since I don't recognize the name. So with that, I think I said hey to everybody. Thanks for joining us. And Patriot's out there. I miss Patriot. So Patriot, I believe. Wait, I'm trying to remember. It's hard to remember who knows Huck anymore. But I don't know if anybody has been around since. If Knives was in here, he would know. But I don't know if Patriot's been around that long. Friday nights at 9 o'clock Central. I think that the Gizzard has that time frame locked in there, and I don't want to be stepping on that roost, I guess. He's got that slot. All right, so thanks for dropping by. And we'll end this thing on the Ninja for Patriot and say, hey, if you got a topic for next week, let us know. We were going to be talking tech, so more like along the lines of what Clover got in. So we may talk tech again, but we don't have to do that next week. We could do that the week after or even after that. So if you've got a more interesting topic or a more relevant or a more critical one, let us know. With that, we will end this one.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
Shit. Ninja? Ninja! Ninja!
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.